Eyup, this is it, the big one. Championship 25-26 predictions. I've dabbled with this for weeks and I've tried waiting as long as I can to see the incomings and outgoings of different teams, but I've got to lock it in eventually, and today is that day. Now we're going to do it in tier list form. Right to left would mean 24th, 23rd. It'd go in that order. And some positions are much harder than others. For example, bottom at league, I take no joy in this whatsoever. I've got Sheffield Wednesday, who are going dead last. Everybody's on the same page now. Like, surely to God, even the most biased, deluded pig ever would still sit there and say that they're getting relegated in last. You look at a very limited squad from last season that's done well to stay up for 2 years in a row, because some of them players at that squad that play consistently are absolutely awful. But the better players that they have had have gone. Gassama's gone. Windass has gone. Even players like Musaba, he's gone as well. Michael Smith, Valentin. Like, all these type of boys. Patterson, someone like that's gone. Little Baz is still there, but that's because nobody else is daft enough to pay him a wage. Roll's gone. Probably going to get a points deduction for not paying staff and players and literally everything else. But yeah, I think there's a real possibility that this could be the lowest points ever for a championship side. But I also said that first season they got promoted when they had Zisco in, and then they ended up staying up. So truly, who knows with football? But I'm fairly confident that Wednesday will get relegated, so I've got them last. Oh, God. What a shame. Now, from here upwards, I'm struggling. I really am. Trying to pick two other teams that get relegated in a very strong league is tough. Like, the last 2 seasons, all 3 promoted sides from League One have all stayed up. So you're looking at Plymouth, Ipswich and Wednesday all stayed up in their first season. And then Portsmouth, Derby and Oxford have done the same thing again. There's a serious possibility that it happens for 3rd season in a row. So historically, for the last few years, sides that have just been in and out Championship could be in trouble of getting relegated. And that is the vibe that I'm going for in 23rd. Getting relegated with Sheffield Wednesday, I have got Hull. Now, there's a lot going on behind scenes here as well. They are just run by a lunatic. I think that's been a common theme wheel for a number of years now. It's not as bad as the previous fella, but my God, he's still not normal. They've let loads of players go again. There's quite a big turnover. And I won't look too much into last season's position either. Like, they were down in a scrap all the way through, weren't they? But they picked up towards, like, second half of the season, especially with Ruben Sellers, and then sacked him. So that's part of my reason here. The owner is just... he's lost. He's absolutely lost. You just never know what you're going to get. And that is the theme that I'm going for with teams that I think are getting relegated. Some teams might not have the personnel that Hull have got. Because I think going forward especially, they had a lot of injuries last season. Hull, I think, have got some bright young talents going forward. They've got some really good defenders as well. But you just never know if they're going to sack somebody. They could be top at league and they'd sack Gaffer. So you never truly know what the thought process is at man pulling strings behind this club. Which is why I've got them getting relegated. And I'm going to put third bottom in right now. This is very left field here. I don't think anybody sort of got this one. But I have got Watford finishing in 22nd and getting relegated with both of these two. Let me tell you why, right? I think Cleverley is genuinely a good manager. I think they got unlucky with, again, the injuries towards back end of last season. The best fella, that Georgian guy, Georgie Chats, whatever his chuffing name is, that fella, he got injured in April, didn't he? And he's still injured now. Now, that is quite a common theme with this fella. He's 25 and he's been playing for a long time. But there's been 2 different instances with this fella where he's been injured for 40 plus games at a time. According to Transfer Market, he's got a stress reaction of the bone, which just doesn't sound good, and he's been out for ages now. He's not played in any pre-season games up to date. And complete opposite to Hull, really, because for the last 20 games, Hull were up in 9th with Ruben Sellers and they managed to sack him somehow. But Watford were dead last. For the last 20 games, they were bottom at table. They got 19 points in the last 20 games. They'd lost 11. They only scored 17. The defensive record isn't the worst ever, but they do look quite void of ideas, and there is a severe lack of quality within the squad, really. Now, the players that they've brought in, they've strengthened it middle with Cipriano from Peterborough, but I do think that's quite a risk from someone that spent, I think, all his career in League One. No, it's League One and 2. He's never played above that level. And he is young and talented, don't get me wrong. But they're relying very much on the youth aspect. They've brought 2 right wingers in that are both 19, one from Bayern Munich and one from Montpellier. They've spent a bit of brass there. But a lot of the players that they've brought in are younger and are probably going to just be relied on to come and start straight away. They always make decent sales, Watford, and the general market value of a lot of the players is quite good. But I do think it's quite a strong league, and you've got to have 3 teams to go down. Everybody's got Wednesday. I think a lot of people have got Hull as second bottom. Trying to pick a third favourite to go down with them. I just think other teams have got more sane ownership with quite steady teams, not taking loads of risk, and weren't bottom at table for the last 20 games. I think a lot of people are just looking at Watford and thinking, oh, they're normally like mid-table or they'll be pushing for top 6 or something. And nobody takes them seriously because of that. But you pull the curtain back a little bit. The squad is really poor apart from like odd couple of players, that Georgian fella and Loser especially. The runner's a nutcase. They'll not have a manager for more than 5 games, and it's a very strong league. Like I said, the last 3 seasons, it looks like that all 3 teams are going to stop up from League One. So teams like Watford and Hull and Wednesday are going to be ones that bite bullet for it. So them are 3 relegated sides. Wednesday in last, and then Hull and Watford, and then moving into the scrapping category. I think a lot of people have got these in this sort of realm as well. Is Preston 4th bottom. Now, last season they finished 5th bottom and they got out on last day. They let a lot of players go, and these type of lads have been about forever, like Ryan Ledson, Keane Taylor, Emil Rees, Freddie Woodman, Patrick Bauer. These type of, even like Ched Evans, Kean Best, they've played a lot of games really, despite like the contrasting ages there. And the only 2 players that they've actually got a fee for is Leighton Stewart, who's not going to have got loads for him, and Jack Watmore to Huddersfield. They're the only 2 that they've actually got fees for. Now they have brought a few players in as well, but again they've heavily relied on free transfer market. They've still got money to spend because obviously they've bid for Kone, but they're not going to get him. But I must admit, I do really like the transfer business. It's very safe and very boring in majority of positions, but that is what can just keep you up really easily, and that is just what Preston are. Michael Smith from Wednesday I like, Jordan Thompson from Stoke, Iverson, the keeper from Leicester, Paul Valentin from Wednesday, Thierry Small on a free from Charlton's really good. They brought Jebison in on loan from Bournemouth, that's like quite hit or miss with him being 21, who knows. And they bought a fire from Brighton, the young right backs who were on loan at Blackpool last season. So I think the full-backs and the width is really good. Bringing in Thierry Small and a fire for about, 1.2 million quid combined. That is stellar business that way. Age they both are as well. But I do just think generally the squad is quite poo as well. They did finish 5th bottom for a reason last season. But you know the difference between Watford and Preston and why I've got 1 staying up and 1 going down is there's just a little bit more stability at Preston. And I don't think if they were in bottom 5 at Christmas, I don't think they'd sack Eke. Whereas if Watford were, I feel like they'd just sack current manager, go and get a new risk in. It's a completely different style of play. It's just such a roll at dice every time. And I think eventually Watford will lose. But I've got Preston 4th bottom and narrowly surviving. And another team that I've got down here, despite having quite a good year last season, but again, speaking of the ownership situation and just general level throughout that squad and the players that they've lost / will lose and the severe lack of money going back in, I have got Blackburn in 20th. Now I want to make it very clear, I really like Ismail. Not just because I'm a Barnsley fan. Well, it is partly because I'm a Barnsley fan and what he did with us. But I know what he can do on limited budgets. But Blackburn are taking piss with this limited budget. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do not think they spent loads last summer. Obviously, the amount of money that they brought in from Smodics, they didn't reinvest loads of that, despite finishing 7th. Like, they had Eustace, a very good manager, who left to go to Derby, who were in bottom 3 at time, because A, they're going to give him more money, like that is just a given. That is part and parcel of the game. They've given manager more money. But they've promised him, obviously, in summer, we will give you X amount of millions to go and spend. And they've absolutely eclipsed Blackburn in transfer market. So looking back at it, like in hindsight, I am not surprised it's slightest that he went from somewhere like Blackburn to Derby, despite the positions at time. Like I said, they finished 7th, and if they'd have won on last day away at Sheffield United, they'd have got in there. They'd have got in 6th, which is crazy with the amount of stuff that's going on behind closed doors. But Eustace is a great manager, and he gave him a good chance at start. And I think Ismail, despite coming into quite just a rocky place in general, like fans aren't happy how the squad just isn't that good, I think he gave it a real good go at end. They won 4 out of the last 5 games. And like I said, they went to playoff finalist 90 points Sheffield United and drew on last game. So they had a proper good crack. But their incomings, just, there's a lot to be desired still here, isn't there? Like Sidney Tavares, I've never heard of him to be fair, so I can't comment on him. But he's the big money one that they've actually brought in for about 1.6 million quid. And then they've brought odd couple lads in again, 2 from some Belgian side, I don't even know. But again, the players that they're going to lose, like Tyrese Dolan's gone on a free, Andrew Weiman's gone on a free, Danny Bath's gone on a free. Even that Dylan McCandy had been a decent backup option, but he's gone. Costello's gone to Charlton, like just an easy squad player that they could use. Callum Britton looks likely to leave. I worry for Blackburn that they could slide down table quite a lot. But again, mainly because it's a strong league. I still think they'll be fine, obviously. But I think we're sliding way down table just with general strength at league and the fact that Blackburn haven't strengthened in slightest, really. You also never know that, like, Blackburn could have a decent start. They could be somewhere, like, top half-ish in January and then sell, like, 3 of the best players, and then that could be what takes them down. I think there's a genuine chance they could sack Ismail, who I think would be good for him if given, like, the tools, but he's obviously not being given said tools. I still think they'll stay up, which genuinely I think is quite a good year. Like, while ever Blackburn are chipping away in this league, I completely understand and agree that if they had proper ownership, they'd have gone in playoffs a long time ago. They've been near it a couple of times recently, haven't they? But you just got to accept the position that you're in. Your owners are knobs. So I think 5th bottom, as long as you're not in that bottom 3 while you've got these owners, I would take it genuinely. Because you click your fingers away from being a Barnsley or what is probably now a Plymouth with these type of owners. But we'll just go and fill out the rest of the scrappings because I've got another 3 in this like sort of realm, but they're not as close as Blackburn and Preston are. In 19th, I have got Stoke, 18th and staying up, which I didn't think they were going to do at time, but I have got Charlton. And then 17th, will be very safe. A lot of people are just going down lazy argument here because the small team is Oxford. It will definitely stay up. Stoke first. I genuinely quite like the business that they've done. I like Mark Robbins. But again, there's not loads and loads to go off in terms of, obviously, Berger's been sold, who's arguably the best player. Well, easily the best player, I think, from outside looking in. They've let a lot of type of squad players go. And the players that they've brought in, I've not heard of, like, Arthur. So I can't really comment on the incomings, really. But the ones that they have brought in, I like that to have what the Ukrainian fella from Plymouth, that centre half with like little tuft at back of his head. I like that. I like Aaron Cresswell. I really like Aaron Cresswell on a free transfer. That's lovely. But some others like Sorba Thomas, obviously stinking attitude, or I want to have been sent out on loan from Huddersfield. Mobama from City, like truly, who's got a clue? Do you know what I mean? We don't really know where majority of these players that Stoke have actually brought in. But I really like Mark Robbins, so that's my reason. And also, regardless of the level of player that Stoke have brought in, they've just always been in and around here, haven't they? Like 16-fish. I know I've got them a bit lower, mainly due to strength of the sides, but they're just always in this realm. They've not been the same since Pulis has gone. They've never once even challenged at top since they've been relegated to Championship. This is just where they are now. The seasons, right, since Stoke have been relegated, 16, 15, 14, 14, 16, 17, 18. What are we doing? Moving up onto 18th, though, I've got Charlton. Now, they did lose Thierry Small on a free transfer to Preston, like I said, more towards start at window. And I did think at the time, that's sort of setting tone for a side that's not going to be able to compete financially in transfer market. But then they're going to drop £10 million without selling one player. So, I don't know. And the players that they've brought in, chef's kiss. Now, they have gone and just raided Luton for players that got relegated twice in a row. But like Reece Burke, Amari Bell and Kaminsky, I think are solid squad options at the very least. Sonny Carey on a free from Blackpool is a no-brainer to free it. And then for their actual like big money signings, Alafe from Stockport I think will suit Nathan Jones to ground with how he likes to play. Arvidims from Reading, quality. Rob Apter from Blackpool, quality. And then Charlie Kellman from QPR. Absolutely outstanding. Charlton defensively last season, very good. Like one at best easily, hence why they got promoted. But going forward, they weren't best side I've ever seen. I'm going to be completely honest. I think they lacked quite a lot going forward. Partly due to Nathan Jones and just what he is as a manager in general. But the personnel were nowhere near good enough to compete in Championship. Nowhere near. Hence them making all these signings. But the attacking change that they've made from what they had last season to now going to be starting Alafe and Kellman, that is really good. Really, really good. And I think they will be safe because of it. And I really didn't start. Seriously, I've fiddled with this so many times. And only last week have I really shifted Charlton out at bottom 3 and away from it a little bit. But I think they'll be fine. And then my final team in the scrapping category is Oxford in 17th. People have got to stop being lazy. That's what this is. This is born idle laziness, putting Oxford in bottom 3 just because they're one of the smallest teams. Get a grip. Bournemouth in Premier League. Club size means absolutely niche. Look at the movements in this transfer window that Oxford have got. Look at the manager they've got. There is no way these get relegated. They've let a few players go, yeah, like Ruben Rodriguez has been sold, El Mazoun has been sold. But it's not like we're talking about Brannigan going here or Ellick. You know, like the better players that they've got, or Cummings in there. They're like getting rid of players that are sort of on cusp but not really that important to them, and they're getting fees from. And obviously last season, there were a lot of new incomings. It's similar to Charlton, they brought a lot of new players in at once because you've got to pat your squad out. It's very heavily reliant on your subs, I think, Championship, especially down at bottom. If you've got a decent starting 11 but your squad depth is just crap, you will get relegated. So it makes sense the amount of players that they've both brought in, really, Oxford last season and Charlton this one. But Oxford have now got the squad that they know can stay up, and now they've just got to add little bits of quality here and there. Hence, Hellick in January, that were a fantastic buy from Huddersfield as a serious centre-half for this division. They've gone and brought Brodie Spencer in from Huddersfield, a very good right-back, young, resale value, really nice. Some Belgian fella, I've not got a clue from, well, top Dutch division from Eredivisie, not got a clue. Luke Harris, who were on loan at Birmingham last season from Fulham, really nice. They've added little bits of quality to a team that were already good enough. This is an harder league, but I think they're a better side. And I think Gary Rowett just does what Gary Rowett does. Do you know what I mean? He did it with Millwall year after year after year, easily keeping him up away from any danger at all. And I think he will do the same with Oxford. I think they'll be fine in 17th. Now, moving up into the mid-tables, I have got In 16th, the same position as they finished in last season, I have got Portsmouth. Now, they finished on 54 points last year, and thanks to a really good end to season, they pulled away from it quite a bit. And I do think they've strengthened. I will say that right now. I definitely think that Portsmouth have strengthened on the position that they finished last season in terms of like personnel and points and everything like that. But at the same time, I don't think they move. I think the Championship in general has taken a step forward in terms of quality, and I think Portsmouth have taken that step equally. I don't think they will move up. I don't think they will move down, but I think this is still a fantastic season on the second one back without going and spending multi. They're not going to spend £10 million like Charlton. They're living within the means. They've made some good sales like Sadie, Paddy Lane, Riley Towler. Lads that are good players, genuinely good players, but just not good enough for what Portsmouth are now, really. Apart from Towler, I think Towler could have done a job. And a couple of lads that they brought in, they brought John Swift in on a free, who's the only one that I know about, and then some lad from Budapest, some guy from Sweden, and some guy from Sydney FC. So, absolutely no comment on any of them lads, but they've not lost any player that means anything to them, really. They're not going to have lost anybody of importance there that's going to affect the starting 11. They've still got Bishop, they've still got Murphy. Defensively, they had a lot of injuries last season, but they'll come good this time. They've added a lot to attacking lineup at middle at Park with transfers that they brought in. I like the manager in Musinho. I don't think he'll leave. The home aspect is going to be really important for him, as always. I think Portsmouth will be fine, but I don't think they've done enough, really, which I think would be tough to do to really push up table. But I think they'll be fine in 16th again. Now, I have got someone falling quite a few places from last season into 15th. I still think they'll obviously be way away from trouble, but nowhere near top where they probably think they deserve to be. And that is Middlesbrough, who I've got in 15th. They finished 10th last season and only 4 points off playoffs. But looking at the incomings that they've made, it is nowhere near enough right now for a completely different style of football going from Michael Carrick to Rob Edwards. It is chalk and cheese how these two fellas play. They have been recruiting for Michael Carrick's football for a number of seasons now. And since he's left and they brought Rob Edwards in, they have given Rob Edwards two players. Alfie Jones from Hull, centre-half, and then some fella called Kante from Troyes. Now, if it's the same Kante as last time, they'll have done pretty well there. They are being linked to Callum Britton as well, quite heavily from Blackburn, but at time of me recording, they've not done it yet. They've sold Josh Coburn for a good fee, really, for someone who didn't do enough for Middlesbrough, but he works really well for Millwall with Ivanovic. So that Dykes deal's gone on a free transfer. They've let a couple fellas go, and a lot of the loans that played quite important parts from last season have gone. Like Ben Doak, I know he got injured, but Ben Doak, Ryan Giles, Illing Jr. from Villa and Iheanacho from Sevilla have all gone back to the parent clubs. And I've said it a few times already in this vid, but it's a much stronger league than last season. I think all three coming down have got a lot to say. I think a couple of teams coming up have got something to say as well, clearly, because I've not put them in there yet. It's a new manager with new style of play. They've not given him the players that he really needs to implement what he wants to do. These lads that they've got are not suited to... They cannot just go long. Middlesbrough have not got the option to just go long if they want to with current couple of lads that they've got. And they need that. They need someone like that with Rob Edwards. They need players that can put an head on a ball. Otherwise, they're in a lot of trouble. They have obviously got the quality within the team to still win games and get loads of points anyway on themselves. But it won't surprise me if Rob Edwards is sat. Really, it really would not. If we're looking at like one of the first to get sat, I think he's not being given much chance, really. They've got a good squad, don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's been given much chance. He's not had loads of say on players that he really wants, despite him being in profit, in a net profit at minute by selling Coburn. I think they could have a really poor start, and it won't surprise me if they do sack him. But yeah, I've got Middlesbrough smack it middle at 15th for next season. Then going back to it, I've got another side that are just more or less in the exact same position as last season, but have marginally improved, and that is QPR, who I've got going up one position into 14th. Cifuentes leaving is obviously a problem for him because he's a very good manager. But I am a big fan on the players that they've brought in. I really am. They've brought Poku on a free from Peterborough. They've obviously bought Dembele now, Karamoko Dembele. So the wingers, and just general attacking depth is really good. They brought Mbengu on a free from Reading. That is very good business as well. Burrell from Burton for about £1 million. That's just effectively a free hit, really, for someone that's got this much money. And again, despite letting quite a lot of players go, I don't actually think they've lost anybody that was their player, that is. Like, obviously, Kelman's gone, but he weren't there last season, and they've got a good fee for him. They've let Morgan Fox go. Murphy Cooper's gone back out on loan from Stevenage to Barnsley this time. They've let Jack Colback go and Lucas Anderson, but no big misses there. I think they're going to miss, like, Ronnie Edwards, who were on loan from Southampton, don't get me wrong, because he's very good. But just generally, I really like the attacking-minded players that they've got. They've obviously managed to keep Jimmy Dunn, the centre-half. They've got him on a new contract. I like QPR. And at one point, I was looking at them as a sort of outside shot for top 6. But the league is just generally too strong. It is way too much. It's too hard to break into these sort of teams when you look at how much money they're spending or just general quality within the squads that are above them. But QPR, I think they'll be all right. They'll be in 14th, but just I think this is where they belong, really, mid-table for this season. I don't think they've got enough to go further. Moving on up into 13th, I have got Derby, who finished 19th last season, so I've got them a lot higher. But a lot of it does speak for itself, doesn't it? Like, obviously, John Eustace, fantastic gaffer. He proved that at Blackburn when he had him up and around top 6 with limited resources. It then comes to Derby in a relegation scrap who look doomed and keeps him up. So he's very good. He had Birmingham in top 6 at Championship in his first job, and then when they sacked him, they got relegated. So, yeah, I think he's proved himself at enough teams now to warrant being classed as a top gaffer for this division. I really do like Eustace. And they've made a lot of good signings as well. Like this Aggie man, I've not got a clue, so I can't really comment on him. But Vyman, I really like from Blackburn. I like Danny Bath as well. Just the players in general that they've took free hits on. Rian Brewster, really good. They brought Owen Beck and that Ozo back from Palace on loan. They bought Kelton Morris from Luton. They've got a lot of physical presence, definitely, and that will really suit them, especially if they're under Koshabate. They can always rely on a set piece or a corner to win them a point late on. And a lot of teams just don't have that, hence Middlesbrough. They've let absolutely boatload of players go, but not one of them, I don't think, again, means anything. Obviously, some of them haven't even got clubs. Well, Artham still ain't got clubs, the lads that they've let go. Mendes Lang's gone to MK Dons. They've let Sonny Bradley go, these type of boys, Barkhausen. But these are players that got on promoted from League One in first place, that were on good money for that league, that are just nowhere near good enough for this one, that they've all let go. So, despite letting loads of players leave, I think they've had a great window. I really do. They've spent a lot of money on this Aggie man, obviously, from Charlotte in America. But other than that, it's a lot of frees both ways. I think they've had a very, very good transfer window, Derby have. Not got enough quality, definitely not, to challenge for top 6. But with John Eustace and some good signings, they'll be all right. They'll definitely be all right. Back to normality now for Derby, trying to challenge near top. Because after a freak couple of years in League One, they belong up here, don't they, somewhere, roughly. But I've got one more mid-tabler in 12th place. So we are sneaking into top half here. And it's someone that's very accustomed with this position. I'm rooting for him this season, I really am. But after probably missing out on the shot last year, I have got Bristol City in 12th. Obviously, playoff semi-final losers last season, arguably going down as one of the worst ever in playoffs because they lost 6-0 on aggregate, which takes some doing. But seriously, I don't want to sound like I'm being satire here or taking piss. I think for a side like Bristol City to lose at playoffs and then go back to 12th is absolutely brilliant. I really do. They've managed to keep effectively every single player that they actually want to keep. Now, obviously with smaller sides that get in playoffs, typically Huddersfield or Barnsley, you know what I mean? Teams like this, if you get in Championship playoffs, immediately you're going to get ripped to shreds and you're probably going to be in a relegation scrap season afterwards. It's proved itself time and time again for the smaller sides that aren't willing to spend like millions. And Bristol City do fit that bill. We've got to be honest, Bristol City have spent a little bit of money. Like, they've brought Randall in from Plymouth, which is really good. Some Japanese fella from Machida Zelvia, never heard of him in my life. But they're the only two players that they've actually spent money on. They brought Reese in on a free from Preston and Joe Lumley on a free from Southampton. I really like them incomings. They've lost nobody that they actually probably wanted to keep. So that is a fantastic window for you. Absolutely brilliant. But you have lost your manager, who were a large part of why he did so well anyway. And Struber, I really like. I seriously really do like him. You're going to play some good football, some exciting stuff under him. But like I've said, this might be the 7th time I've said it in this video. It's a strong league. It's a strong league. You're not just going to snap your fingers, not really strengthen in anywhere, really. Have sides that are going to spend millions more than you and then get back in there. It's just not going to happen. I think 12 for Bristol City after the year that they've just had would be absolutely fantastic. I would snap your hand off. If I were Bristol City fan right now, I'd be thanking the lucky stars to be in 12th. I really would. But they are my mid-tablers. Sorry, Bristol City fans. I'll go in on a tangent then. But they are my mid-tablers. I've got Bristol City in 12th, Derby in 13th, QPR 14th, Middlesbrough 15th, and Portsmouth in 16th. Now, moving into the just missing out category. Now, this is where it starts to get really tough. Like, very, very hard, this. I've changed this so many times. The majority of, like, my teams near bottom, apart from Charlton and Odd Couple, I've changed around. But near top, I have changed this so many times from probably like 5th downwards. And this is what I'm settled on right now. 11th place and just missing out, I have got Swansea. Again, definitely one of the smaller teams in this division. And don't go and spend absolute boatloads of money all the time. They are genuinely the perfect blueprint, really, to survive and be honestly mid-table at least every season almost, despite being one at smaller sides with lower attendances, with lower revenue, with lower everything. Because anytime they have a decent player, they sell him. but then they reinvest the money again. They are honestly run really well, Swansea. Obviously, they've not managed to get fees for some players this season who they would have liked to. Harry Darling's gone on a free to Norwich, which is quite a miss, but they did get a good fee for Jerry Yates, who's gone to Luton. They have let another couple of players go on frees, like Kyle Norton, obviously, Cyrus Christie, these type of boys. But apart from Harry Darling, I'm not overly interested in the players that they've lost. Obviously, bringing in someone like Cameron Burgess from Ipswich is absolutely outstanding business. Galbraith from Leyton Orient at about 1.2 mil, brilliant. Now, they've spent like £5 million on some lad from Sweden called Inusa, who I've never heard of, so I can't comment. Swansea have made some massive sales in the last couple of years. They've got loads of brass from transfers. They're spending what they bring in. They're not just coming and dropping £20 million out of thin air. Now, they are favourites to sign Kone from Wickham. And if they do get this over, I would probably push them up a little bit, but I still don't think they get top 6 just based on strength for other sides. It looks like Swansea or Leicester being favourites to sign Kone, and whichever of them does get him, you're onto a winner because he's a fantastic player. But purely down to the strength of these sides, I've just got to have Swansea missing out, even if they do get Kone, and I can't justify putting them in there just based on the fact that one injury could just completely derail the season with that. But Swansea are the side that I've got in 11th. Now, moving up into 10th, the top 10, baby. I have got their Welsh counterparts, Wrexham. They've had a fantastic transfer window. And again, the one that I've sort of flirted with idea of putting them in playoffs so many different times. But I have just decided to have them missing out. They've not signed Nathan Broadhead yet, but that looks very likely. They've not signed Kiefer Moore yet, but that looks very likely. The players that they've brought in, Lewis O'Brien, top notch. Connor Cody, I really like. Ryan Hardy, Josh Windass, Thomason from Bolton, these type of boys. This Kakas fella from Empoli. And they've let absolutely nobody of any importance to them go. That is going to be a common theme with Wrexham. If they want to keep players, they will stay. They just have no reason to sell with the amount of brass that they've got behind them. Whereas you can't set same for 90% of other teams in here. If a bid comes in for them, they're probably going to sell. But Wrexham just have no reason to at all because they make more money than every team in here that hasn't got a parachute payment. Wrexham make more money than all of them. And their incomings are good. They've lost nobody that means anything. I do think that they could be in and around like sort of here in January. But once they get to January, they will spend more money, like a stupid amount more, especially if they are in this sort of position. It won't surprise me if they go and drop like another 10-15 mil in January to try and push for playoffs, because that's just what they are. That's just what they do. They've got that much money. I think they'll be in and around this sort of picture, but just missing out. Respectfully, I've got them in 10th, Wrexham. But they're not just here to make numbers up. Everybody's 40 every step up way. League 2 teams 40 when they come up. League 1 sides 40 when they come up. Championship sides are going to think exact same thing. And it's different here. But no, it's not. They're going to spend loads of brass every time. And they will be up there. But moving up into 9th. And again, missing out on the playoffs. This is where it gets really tough for me because I've got Birmingham, Coventry, Ipswich, Leicester, Millwall, Norwich, Sheffield United, Southampton and West Brom left. This is where it starts to get really, really tough and it starts razzing it up a little bit. But in 9th, I have got Norwich. Last season, 13th, and to be honest, miles off with the quality that they had. But Borja Sands has been sold. Josh Sargent is still sort of on chopping block. You never really know if he's going to leave or not. It might be a Prem side or a Bundesliga side. You never know if they're going to lose him. But the thing with Norwich is they are not shy at all with the money that they spend. They have dropped 20 million quid this transfer window. Very quietly, but they have going to spend 20 million quid. I'm now completely understanding why Liam Manning has left Bristol City, who spent about 2 to go to Norwich, who spent this much. So who they brought Grimshaw in from Plymouth, Jeffrey Schlupping on a free from Palace, Harry Darling on a free from Swansea is absolutely fantastic, like I said. Some fella from Ajax, some fella from Sporting, some fella from Famaliaco, some fella from Metz, some fella from Brondby, and Jacob Wright from Man City. No idea. Complete new team, not got a clue, but for that much money, they've got to be half decent, and they surely. And especially when you're bringing in players like Harry Darling on a free, that just really does set tone. Liam Manning's a great manager. They've brought a lot of players in. I do think there's potential for Sargent to be sold, but even if he is, they'll go and bring someone else in. The thing that's not made me just lob them into playoffs, really, is the fact that the defence was so terrible last season. They were awful at back. 68 goals conceded for Norwich. That's one less than Luton, who got relegated. And don't get me wrong, they scored loads of goals because they've had 68 goals conceded and finished on a positive. They scored 71, which is that not the second most in the entire division? It is. Leeds scored 95, and then in second for goals scored it with Norwich. So they know it back at net is. It's very Barnsley from last season, you know, this. Really good going forward, but horrendous at back. But I've just got this feeling deep down that I can't put Norwich in there because I've got some other lads in. Now in 8th, I've got Leicester. Oh, at one point I was like, yep, definite top 6, nailed on. But I saw a Sky reporter the other day, it might have been yesterday at the time of recording this, said that he thinks Leicester are likely to get a 9-point deduction, which is quite a lot. It really is. I think a lot of people probably would have had Leicester guaranteed top 6 if not. But 9 points is a lot. Especially when you look at last season, Coventry finished in 5th with 69 points. If you'd have taken a points deduction off them, they're down in 11th. So that's how tight it is in and around this playoff picture. And I do think that is what will hold them back from getting in there. Cifuentes is a great manager. They've brought in no one. Yeah, they've brought Begovic in on a free, but that is literally it. They've let a couple of lads go that don't, well, these days they don't mean anything. Like Vardy can't hack it anymore. Danny Ward's left, Iverson's left, and Connor Cody's left. But they're not like of great importance to current Leicester and what's expected of them. Cifuentes, like I said, is a good manager, and the core of that squad is just really good. Majority of lads are there from last time they got promoted anyway. But I've got to say it, man, it's a strong league. It is a strong league. What do you want me to say? I think 9 points is too much. I don't think they can take a 9-point deduction and just go wincing back in there like it's no. I don't think they can. I've got to be 8th. Which means I've got a final 7 of Birmingham, Coventry, Ipswich, Millwall, Sheffield United, Southampton and West Brom. And one of these is unfortunately going to miss out. Place your votes now. That team is West Brom. I've got in 7th. Now, I was buying into hype big time here. I really were. When they started this window and they started chucking some brass about, I'm thinking, this is not the West Brom I know. Since they've got relegated and they were in a bit of financial trouble anyway, weren't they? They were the absolute experts at going and getting really good free transfers from other sides in Championship that had excelled at their teams. Moat at Barnsley, when we got to playoffs, obviously, they come and nicked him. They went and got John Swift from Reading at time. They were really good at that type of signing. But a lot of these players now they're getting rid of, like Grady and Garner's gone on a free, John Swift's gone, Semi Ajayi's gone. Like a lot of the lads that were these type of boys have all gone. But more importantly, they've actually been spending some money. They've spent about 9 million quid so far, but it's on free players. Which obviously they're bringing in little bits of quality to adjust for players that they've let go. And it's Gaffer's first season in charge, but they are losing out on some of the players that I think if they'd have got, then I'd have probably had him in. Like Mikey Moore, for example, has gone out on loan and he's ended up at Rangers. And I thought West Brom at the time, being heavily linked to him, could have maybe pulled him in. And that I think that alone would have sort of like tweaked me a little bit and stuck him in there. But with it being his first season in charge as a manager, and I think depth being quite an issue, despite the overwhelming quality that they have got within this team, because they've got a lot of very, very good players. I think depth from other sides probably does outweigh him, and just general knowledge of this league and experience from a manager. So just missing out, I have unfortunately got West Brom. Which means the chosen ones are Birmingham, Coventry, Ipswich, Millwall, Sheffield United and Southampton. And in 6th place, just completely disregarding my obvious liking for Millwall. Because in case you don't know, I really like Millwall. I'm a Barnsley fan, but my best mate's a Millwall fan. So all my life since I've known him, I've sort of been like, they're my second side, Millwall, I love them. But when I look at the outgoings, because that is obviously what I'm going to do, with one of the smaller sides in this division, Millwall, you're immediately looking, have they lost all the best players? Same as I do with Swansea, Bristol City, Oxford, like these type of teams, I would look, have you lost your better players? And the overwhelming answer is no, not at all. Now, Fleming, they've got the fee for Fleming now, but he was on loan with an obligation last season at Burnley anyway. But they're getting the money for him now. Aaron Connolly on a free has done nothing. Honeyman's been about forever, but it's time that he moved on. Liam Roberts were a backup for the most part anyway. George Saville is a bloke that, again, has played a lot of games for Millwall, but with the money that they've got and the direction they're trying to go in, I think it makes sense to cut ties now and not offer a new contract, really. Murray Wallace has gone, Duncan Watmore, Sean Hutchinson. A lot of lads that have been there for a number of years. A lot of just proper Millwall. A lot of them lads have gone. And you look at the fellas that they've brought in. Josh Coburn they've gone and purchased from Middlesbrough for about 5.5 mil. Now that is a big fee for the actual player himself and what he is really, Coburn. But he's 22. There's a lot of room to grow. And the partnership that him and Ivanovic had worked really, really well. So it might just be to facilitate Ivanovic a little bit more and just have that freedom. But I really like that transfer. Luongo from Ipswich on a free transfer is fantastic. Alfie Doughty from Luton is a Millwall boy in it, but that is really good business. Obviously, they brought Zach Sturgeon as well from Chelsea, who were on loan at last season. He only played odd games, but again, a young 21-year-old, really good signing that for future. Some fella called Bender from Fulham on loan, a keeper. Really good. Really, really good. Alex Neil as gaffer. Mate, this, oh God, this is it. And more importantly as well, Ivanovic, like looking at the best two players by a mile, you're looking at Ivanovic and Tanganga. Ivanovic, they've made it very clear, the stance, that unless you're getting us at least 15 million quid, it'd be the club record fee by a landslide, then he's not going anywhere. And Ivanovic don't seem to be pushing for the move. Everybody seems to be happy with the position they're in. So they've got no reason to sell. They're in such a win-win position with that. The only thing that's like making me a little bit worried for him is that Tanganga has this release clause like looming over his head with is it £1.5 million for a Premier League side, something like that. Realistically, he's either going to Premier League or he's staying here. I do just think any of the Premier League sides, especially near bottom, are one early injury at centre half away from just triggering it and having him come in immediately. That's what worries me. But if on 1st of September he is there still, I am going all the way with Millwall. I think they are going to get top 6. Everybody always looks at them as well and thinks, oh no, they're not going to finish in there. They're little Millwall. But since they've been promoted, they finished 8th 4 times. They finished 9th once. They're always in this sort of picture. And this is best squad that Millwall have had in this division by an absolute landslide since they got promoted. They're horrible, they're nasty, which I think a lot of teams lack, and especially at home, the Den is not somewhere that you want to go, ever. So I really do rate their chances, Millwall, at being in there, but it is quite heavily reliant on Tanganga staying. If he doesn't stay, if Tanganga is gone by this time next month, swap them in West Brom, but if he's still there, then I'm having Millwall in top 6. In 5th place, another playoff team from last season, I have got Sheffield United. No 18 for me this season. I'm trying the reverse psychology trick. Looking at the team from last season, obviously they they packed the squad out with about 1 million loans, don't they, Sheffield United? So many loans they've had last season have gone. Rob Holding, Harry Clark, Chowdhury, Ben Berrington Diaz, Raksaki, Gilchrist, Suter. That's 7 loans that have played an important part for them that have all gone back to the clubs. Vinny Souza, arguably, I would say from outside looking in that he is the second best player that they've got. I think they've been robbed absolutely blind. They're getting about 13 million quid for him. And Ryan Brewster's gone, probably the worst signing in football history. Now, on the incomings, the 2 players that they've actually spent any money on are both free hits for kids. So they've not actually spent money or brought any permanent signing in for first team yet. They've brought 2 kids in from Bulgaria. The lads that they brought in on loan, Tyler Binden, who was on loan at Reading obviously last season, and Ruben Sellers brought him through. That's a really good signing on loan. And Louis Barry as well, another one of Ruben Sellers' old players from Hull last season, who is brought to them as well. That worries me a little bit in itself, that Sheffield United, have they even got any scouts working apart from in Bulgaria? Like, have they got anybody at all that they can bring in on a permanent signing that doesn't have a reference from manager himself? Surely to God. I mean, the link with McBurney as well. It's like some unhealthy relationship with their ex, Sheffield United have got. It's not good. I think they're a couple of days away from Billy Sharp coming back. But the reason that I've got him in there is, despite I think Wilder being sacked was genuinely the wrong decision. I truly do. To my core, I think that was a wrong decision. But Ruben Sellers is more or less one at best at rest that you could have got instead. So Ruben Sellers defensively is a fantastic manager. I just think he's a good manager in general. He overachieved with Reading consistently with the stuff that was going on in the background. And then despite getting sacked at Hull, that's just testament to how stupid they are. He come into a side that were really crap defensively, completely changed culture there, made them very hard to break down. They had a lot of injuries going forward anyway, so they weren't going to be most free-flowing, and football weren't most exciting to watch. But he kept them up, and that's all that matters. Sheffield United have still got some of the best players in this league, easily. Hamer, Cooper. You are looking at 2 of the best, probably the best in terms of the positioning league. That just doesn't disappear overnight. They definitely need to spend some money if they want to go up, because I think it's just absolute guaranteed playoff heartbreak, mate. Is it even heartbreak anymore when they lose every time? But I think they're going to playoffs and lose, definitely. But they've still got enough quality within that team to be top 6. I just think going forward, they're not offering a great deal to me at the minute. I think they've obviously got the Hamer, odd thunder bastard that could just go in from anywhere. But apart from that, Campbell's very reliant on his fitness. Tom Cannon's been a bit of a disaster really since coming from Stoke. And I know the link with like Ollie McBurney and some other foreign lad and then a League One forward. Like, who knows? But they need to spend some money ASAP at top end at pitch. Or despite having a really good defence, which I think they will this season under Sellers, they've not got enough top end to challenge properly near top. And I think they just get slapped about in playoffs because of it. But who is the team that will slap them about, I hear you say? Well, in 4th place and my playoff finalist, I have got Coventry City. They've got one of the best squads in the league anyway, so we don't even need to address that. Even though Coventry are a fairly big side for this division, we're not looking at top end like team here, like Grow Up. Now, because of that, I'm immediately looking at their outgoings and thinking, have you lost Hadji Wright? Have you lost Radoni yet? Which they aren't, I don't know how. Ben Sheaf, all these type of boys. Bobby Thomas, who's come on leaps and bounds really recently. Have you lost any of them lads? And the answer again is no. The only lad that had any sort of game time really was Binks, and he's gone to Brøndby. But that's it. And Binks weren't even starting near end. It's been Kitchen and Thomas for ages. Lampard, I think, is an absolute expert in keeping things simple. I've said this so many times. I think it can be a bit of a weakness towards top end of division that they have really only got one way of playing Coventry, I think, and Sunderland obviously held in quite well against that in playoffs. But they've brought in little bits of serious quality, like Kyle Rushworth on loan from Brighton is an immediate upgrade on goalkeeper department. They've brought Kesler Hayden on they've actually bought him. Yeah, of course they have. They bought him from Aston Villa. He was on loan at Preston last season, a right back. He's not even going to start. They spent £3 million on a backup right back because they've got Van Ewijk, can't they, right back. But this is a team that were a cat's pube away from being at Wembley. So, despite I think being tactically outclassed really by Sunderland, Coventry have still got a very good squad and will make light work at majority of this division. Do I think they could do it on a little player here and there? Yeah, but I don't think they're anywhere near done because they spent £3 million and they've got the Gyökeres sell-on money coming in, haven't they? So it won't surprise me to see them drop another like 5 or 6, something like that. But I think they'll definitely 100% be in top 6 just based on last season's squad. And I think Lampard being a very underrated manager, I truly do. And I've got him as playoff finalists beating Sheffield United for me. Now, my top 3 of Birmingham, Ipswich and Southampton. One of these, unfortunately, goes up against the Millwall in the playoffs. And for me, that team is Southampton. Obviously, relegated from Premier League last season. Coming down as one of the worst sides ever, I think it's quite fair to say. But they've let a fair few of them players go that were obviously reason for this. Kyle Walker-Peters has gone on a free transfer to West Ham. They've got rid of Ramsdale. He's gone to Newcastle on loan for a big loan fee. Paul Onuachu has gone. Samuel Amiwao has gone. Jan Bednarek has gone. Suleimania has gone. And they've brought in roughly 35 million quid for them players. And they've brought in 2 German lads that I've never heard of in my life. But the general squad, despite being one of the worst Premier League sides ever, that now, these days, equates to one of the best championship sides easily. I think the real question is on Will Still. I can imagine the type of play style that he's going to go for, but I've never watched a game of his in my life, so I can't really comment. But with how Southampton have been playing for the last couple of years, and how they got promoted out of this division last time, I do think it'll probably be along lines of 90% possession, 10 trillion passes every game. And again, it's similar to Coventry, despite having a completely contrasting style, that is probably enough to win the majority of games. It really is, because the other teams have just not got the quality that Southampton have got. Despite getting relegated embarrassingly, Southampton's squad is just at a different level to definitely everything mid-table down. And I think it's definitely just a gamble on Will Still, but I've got Southampton as a playoff side because of it. Now, I genuinely do think that if they are to play that style of play against Millwall, I think Millwall would have them. So my playoff finalists are genuinely Coventry and Millwall. But realistically, who cares? Am I right? Because we're going to talk about the automatic promotion teams, baby! Second place and going up to the Premier League for the first time in what feels like forever is Birmingham. 111 points last season. It's only League One. Oh, you know what they should have done then, actually? They should have just won by 1 point, just to not run away with it too much. You know what they should have done? Yeah, actually, we don't want to break every points record possible. We don't want to be world record holders for amount of points in a season because we're in League One. Who have they lost from last season that actually means anything to them? I'm going to go on the record right now and say nobody. Absolutely nobody. They've brought in about £7 million worth of fees, and Alfie May, I guess you could look at and think, oh, that could be a bit of a miss. But when you look at the lads that they've brought in, I'm not surprised. Kyogo from, well, he's not from Celtic, he's from Stade Rennais for about 8 million quid. I'm going to say probably best finisher in this entire division. I would genuinely say that based on his time at Celtic. Now, they've bought Gardner Hickman from Bristol City, who were on loan there last season. They've brought some other, they've got a lot of Asian presence in there. Kanya Fujimoto from Gilifacente. They brought Damari Gray on a free. They brought Phil Newman, who was voted as Bundesliga 2's best defender last season, on a free transfer. They've got Cashin on loan. James Meadle on loan's a bit like iffy. And they've got Tommy Doyle as well on loan. The general, like, for a start, the starting 11 is definitely one of the best in division. But in terms of depth, I think you are genuinely looking at the strongest team in the entire league with this. I really do. And you know what best way to look at this will be? I'll just put Ipswich in #1 spot now because Ipswich are my title winners. But the first game on Friday, because I'm doing a watch on for it, is Birmingham at home to Ipswich. Let's just analyse the benches that they put out. Ipswich coming down from Premier League with loads of money versus Birmingham who've just come up from League One. I think Birmingham's bench will absolutely wipe floor without a Ipswich. And again, people don't take teams that get promoted from League One too seriously, really. And I don't blame you for the most part because a lot of teams in League One are just crap. But when you bring the players that Birmingham have brought in, the side that I've got winning league, that everybody have got as the promotion favourites, did exact same thing. They come up, did nowhere near the amount of strengthening or spending that Birmingham have done, and absolutely took living piss and got, what, 96 points Ipswich as soon as they come up to Championship. So don't write off teams that just make a mockery of League One, because they do come up and put teams to sword very regular, and I do expect Birmingham to do that as well. The Ipswich I've got as my title winners. Now, they've obviously lost Delap. Marcus Annis has gone on a free. Cameron Burgess on a free. Twanzebe, Luongo, Morse have all left. The loads from last season, Enciso, Godfrey, Kajus, Calvin Phillips have all gone as well. But the players that they've brought in, despite being quite limited so far, Ashley Young, Matu Siwa, and Cedric Kipper as well on a loan from Stade Reims, I think is very good business. Even though quite limited, I think that is fantastic. Obviously, the Hayden Hackney deal from Middlesbrough has fallen through, apparently. But they've obviously sat on probably about 30 million quid that they're going to spend from now to rest at window. I do think, apart from Birmingham, they've got best squad in league right now. I definitely think they've got best starting 11 regardless. And best manager, and most money, and a history and experience of getting promoted multiple times in different circumstances, playing against a variety of different teams, all with same manager and a few with same players. But that is my title winner, automatic promotion and playoffs done. I've got Millwall Coventry in playoff final, and I think Millwall will win it. And then I've got Birmingham second and Ipswich top. But one last run for entire league. Getting relegated in my 25-26 championship predictions, I've got Sheffield Wednesday, Hull City and Watford. Preston, Blackburn, Stoke, Charlton, Oxford staying just outside. Portsmouth, Middlesbrough, QPR, Derby and Bristol City in mid-table, with Swansea, Wrexham, Norwich, Leicester and West Brom missing out. A playoffs of Millwall versus Southampton and Sheffield United versus Coventry, but I think Millwall beat Coventry at Wembley. And then going up with Millwall to the Premier League, I have got Birmingham in second and Ipswich to win the league. And that, my friends, is that. Love you all. Case, make sure you like and subscribe if you do enjoy it. It does help me out a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in a bit. Come on, Millwall.
Say I'm a man, yes, I'm a mucker. I think of me saying as a right good looker. I say up that. Show us the tits.